So the data continues to roll in, and all of the data points one step closer to a recession. I'm not looking forward to this, as I know you're not either, but you gotta look at the facts, and the data proves we are not gonna soft land, contrary to what Yellen says. But inside of the chaos, inside of the recession, lies opportunity. Ask anybody during prior recessions what they did. They were only doing one of two things. They were either selling and complaining, or they were seeing the opportunity, and that's what today's episode's all about. A good friend of mine, Greg, once said to me, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. So if you stay to the end of this video, or you're around the campfire, you know what we're talking about. And if you don't stay to the end, well, it's just always gonna be a mystery, and you'll probably be the person saying, I should've, I could've, I would've. My name's Chris Naugle. This is What Now? What's next for opportunities? So I have covered a lot of this in prior YouTube videos, but let's just do a recap. Just recently, the inverted yield curve, which, just so you all know, the inverted yield curve is when you're paid more for short duration bonds issued by the US government versus longer duration bonds issued by the US government. So that's backwards. You should always be paid a higher yield for taking on a longer term risk than you would a shorter term risk. However, the inverted yield curve essentially is saying there's more risk in the short term than there is long, so we're going to pay more interest for short term and short duration bonds. Now, that has always predicted a recession. There's only been one time throughout history where it didn't lead to a recession. But the one thing that I'm talking about here is not the inverted yield curve, it's the uninverting of the yield curve, where things pop back to normal. That just happened. And I can tell you this, every time that has happened, it has immediately been followed by a recession. So we're talking about some signs. The signs are everywhere. But let's move on to one more. If you're not convinced because you're like, I don't even care about the inverted yield curve, I don't care about the uninverting of the yield curve, it's all hogwash, doesn't bother me. Job reports sure do, don't they? Have you looked at the job reports? Well, here, let's just look at them really quick. I want to pull this up because this is a really important chart. Job openings data points to a cooling job market. This is Axios who reported on this, but look at that chart. We all know how to view charts, or at least we know up is mostly good, down is bad. If the stock market looked like that, would that be a good or bad thing? It'd be really bad, right? When job openings decrease the way that this chart shows, that ain't good. The other thing that ain't good is every time they revise the job reports that we get all excited about, woo, jobs are good, we're strong, the economy's moving. And then they revise it, like 800,000. Oh, hey, we screwed up, guys. Yep, that's an 800,000 person revision. Like, yeah, that's no big deal, right? Yeah, well, how about this? How about for all the corporate jobs, the manufacturing jobs, the actual good paying jobs, for all those that are lost, they're replaced with government jobs. Now that seems a bit fishy to me. You know why the job reports looked so good for so long? Government employment. That is exactly why. Look at the numbers, look at the reports, but this right here, this chart shows you by the numbers, it shows you how many job openings there are and how fast they are falling. Folks, this all leads one place, and that is a softening economy. And it also leads one place, a recession. Eventually, all this economic cooling, all this data points to one place and one place only. So with all that being said, where is the opportunity? Well, it's certainly not in the stock market yet. But is there an opportunity in the real estate market? That's a really good point, and that's what we're gonna talk about for the duration of this episode, so make sure you stick around. But before that, let's just do a real quick thing. Click that subscribe button so that you know all the videos I have out. But then there's a little alerts button, little bell. Whoa, a little bell. That was my glasses. Yes, they're probably broken, but that's okay because no one needs to see the charts. No, they didn't break. Anyway, that's good because I do need to see the charts, whether or not your glasses are working or not, but click that little bell so that you're notified every time I put out new content. But let's talk about houses. So if we just look back in history at other recessionary periods, we can see exactly where the price of real estate will go. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy because there's so much demand and so many new home buyers want to buy houses, but yet, there's not a lot of people selling their houses because interest rates are so high. But you know what's just happened? Interest rates have been coming down because we're in September. The Fed's going to make an announcement this month, and I can almost guarantee you, I can't guarantee it, but I can almost guarantee you, the Fed will drop interest rates. And as the Fed drops rates, they will keep dropping them because the economy will weaken and weaken and weaken. So when they drop interest rates, number one, it makes money cheaper. Mortgages, right? You can get a mortgage at a lower interest rate, which then makes your payment lower, which then opens up a whole bunch of people to buy houses. Because as interest rates come down, more people become eligible based on their income and their debts, debt to income ratio. And then they can buy houses. So that's good, right? Price of housing is going to go up like everybody else keeps saying. I say, yes, it will go up in the interim, but what will happen is what I already mentioned. As we weaken, companies will continue to keep laying people off like the tech industry has. You'll see that going through the auto industry, which we've already seen slowing down, and it will trickle down to the manufacturing and then the distribution, and then, yes, all of them will slow down. People will get laid off. Unemployment numbers will go up. Now, let me just ask you one question that I know all of you know the answer. If you don't have a job, will the bank approve you for a mortgage? I'm just asking for a friend. I don't really know the answer, but I would guess it'd be a lot harder, if almost impossible, to buy a house if you didn't have a job. Oh, but I'm getting unemployment. But unemployment doesn't last forever. So therefore, when that happens, probably 2025, price of real estate must come down to meet demand because it's just supply and demand. That's all it is. So here's the good news, the opportunity. If you wait and you don't blow your wad now, real estate prices will likely come down. How much? Well, that depends on where you live in the country, but they will all see softening in prices. As a matter of fact, I'm in Buffalo, New York. Hardly an area that is booming for real estate, but we have been booming and our price of real estate has gone up, up, and up since the pandemic. But here's the thing, it's slowly coming down. You know how I know this? Because all the people that I surround myself around here know real estate. They're realtors, they're real estate investors, and yes, they have properties sitting on the market longer. They are having to reduce prices. They are not getting bidding wars like they used to, and the realtors are underpricing houses, trying to get interest because it's getting more competitive. Because here's the thing, as interest rates go down, there will be a lot more competition. It won't just be like,
hey, I got a house for sale. Who wants it? Who wants it? All right, let the bidding begin at $1 million. All right, 1, 2, great. 105, great. Do I hear 107? 107 over there. 110? Yep, 120. All right. 120, anyone? Going once, going twice. 130, all right.
I don't know where I'm going with that. I was talking millions and now I'm talking 130. Who cares? You get what I'm saying? That ain't happening anymore. It might be happening in your backyard, but it isn't happening in most places in this country, which means price of real estate will come down, which means those of you that have some money sitting on the sidelines because you listened and you moved your money out of the markets, you took your profits off the table, you did what Warren Buffett said because prior you had bought low and then you sold high and you made money. Surprise, surprise how that works. And now you got money and now you want an opportunity. Well, all you gotta do is get patient. And the opportunity will literally come to you in the form of lower prices. Yes, stocks will be priced lower and they will continue to go down. And real estate, more than likely, will go down in price. But here's another thing, and check out this article. This is showing US foreclosure starts. So this chart here goes back to the Great Recession, 2008, and it starts to show you. So it looks kind of flat, right? But if you really dissect these numbers, Q1 of 2024, the foreclosure data reveals there are increases in foreclosure. They are up 3%. Now I know that's nothing to get worried about, but I'm just saying we're seeing the numbers go the other direction. You see, a lot of people bought properties at high interest rates. They're waiting to refinance those, but in the midst of doing that, maybe things are changing for their income. Their job, their business, all those things might be slowing down, softening, and they're making less money, which when they make less money, oh my goodness, can they still buy the same priced house? No, they cannot. And then the houses that they own, if they can't afford the mortgage, they get behind. Hey, listen, I've talked about this and I've showed this in prior videos. Credit card delinquencies are up 40%. Car loan delinquencies, I can't remember the percentage, but it's double digits. What do you think is next? Real estate, because real estate's always a lagging indicator. First you go delinquent on your credit card, then your car, and then, that's right, your mortgage. Up 3% says this report right here. So here's a really interesting chart. Now pay close attention. I know the prior one showed only a 3% increase, but this one gives us the foreclosure rates throughout the US. So we can look at the year, we can look at the state, we can look at the city, but let's just focus on 2024. No sense in looking backwards. The total is 31,557 properties in the United States had foreclosure filings in January of 2023. Now, that was a 36% upsurge year over year. 1 in every 4,425 housing units had a foreclosure filing in the month, a 0.02 foreclosure filing rate, very low. Lenders foreclosed 3,896 properties during that period, which was a 6% jump from December of 2022. I'm just trying to show you, if we trace it backwards and we follow the dollar, what we're seeing is increases. Now, depending on what number you look at, it might not seem bad, or you might be like, holy cow, it's increased that much, 6%. And then when you look at the states with the highest foreclosure rates, you start to really unfold and see what is going on. We got New Jersey leading the race here. We got Maryland, Cleveland, Atlantic City, and then down here, cities with the highest increase in foreclosure rates. No surprise, Michigan, okay? And this data is a bit dated, but that's okay. And then right here, Detroit, Warren, Dearborn Metro saw the highest increase, an 807% increase in foreclosure filings the first 6 months in 2022. Y'all know what happened in 2022? The Fed was on their tear raising interest rates. That's what happened. Now, that hasn't slowed down. You just don't hear about it. It's an election year, folks. Why would you hear about it? Because it's not Trump or Harris, which I've done videos on both of their policies, so check those videos out. Don't forget, click that subscribe and hit that little bell. But anyway, I'm just trying to bring some data to you so you can see what's going on. Now, it's hard to understand where we're going if you don't know where we've been. So we found this really cool article all about the Great Recession and its aftermath. So check this out right here. So if you were old enough to understand what was going on during the Great Recession, then you'll understand why this is important, because if we're headed to a recession, let's look back at the prior recession. This one could be different, but the rise and fall of the housing market, no wait, was the real story. Houses plummeted. They plummeted, and only to be rivaled by the Great Depression. I don't think we're gonna see this kind of a drop. I just don't. I don't think we're gonna see this big of a drop in the real estate market, but it is worth looking at. And it's also worth saying, well, what could happen now? You see, the problem isn't so much in residential real estate, the problem is in commercial real estate. The commercial real estate's going to go off a cliff. Prices of commercial real estate are gonna plummet, that's for sure. Because if you understood what I've taught in prior videos about how their debt was structured and what the higher interest rates that we're living in today will do to that, you will understand why that's going to be the problem. But when commercial real estate takes a plunge, residential must follow. All I'm trying to explain in all this data, whether you find it valuable or not, is I'm trying to explain to you that where we're headed is going to present an opportunity of lower real estate, lower commercial real estate, shopping centers. I mean, shopping malls are about dead, and people are buying those up and developing them. You're gonna be able to buy land cheaper. You're gonna be able to buy housing cheaper and rentals cheaper. So if you wanna do that house hack, now would be a good time to look at it. One of the most common questions that I get asked, should I sell my house now while prices are high? My answer is always the same. That depends. It depends on your motives. It depends on what you're talking about. So is this your primary house? If it is, yes, why do you want to sell? I want to sell because we can get the most amount of money. Yes, but if you sell today, you got to live somewhere. Where are you going to go to live? And unless your answer is we're going to live in an apartment and let this whole thing blow over and then we're going to look for opportunities, we're not in a rush for buying, we're just going to coast it out and try to buy lower, then the answer would be yes. But if you're selling your house to get a high price to move into another house that you're going to find, you're also going to pay a high price. So do you really win in that battle? Usually no. But I do then talk to real estate investors that say, should we buy now? This, I always put a little caveat saying, beware. If you buy now, if you're a flipper and you buy now, the price is high. There's a lot of demand for flips and renovation houses. So the price is going to be high and the price more than likely will go lower. And that is not good if you're flipping a house. So that is where I'm saying beware. Now, if you're buying a rental, this is just a mathematics game. So if you're buying a rental today, yes, you're going to pay more for the rental. Yes, interest rates are going to be higher on the debt service. However, rents are also higher. So now you just look at the rents and you just say, do the rents outweigh the expenses? By how much? What is your desired return? Great. If it hits that, do yourself one more solid. Go in and do a pro forma, but reduce rents by 10% and then reduce them by 20%. Does the property still cash flow and meet your investment objectives? If the answer is no, buyer beware. That's the best advice I can give you. I can't predict the future, but I can certainly tell you how to do the math. And that's what you do. Because when I'm lending on properties, because that's all I do is lend now. When I'm lending on a property, the thing I want to see is I want to see if it's a rental, have you done your due diligence to show me what the rent roll looks like when rents go down? Because when people lose jobs, when the economy slows down, when everything starts slipping, rents also will more than likely come down. Because having a renter, having a property that is occupied is far better than trying to get the top rent on your units. That makes sense, right? Now, there is one case study that I think is worth talking about. Jordan, my videographer. So he's right now got a house that is appreciated tremendously, but he's looking at moving more to the rural area to get out of that city life, if you will. He's wanting to take his family and go rural, be closer to the office here. So what we did, just for his sake, and probably for some of you, is we just said, what happens to rural prices in the midst of an economic slowdown? And we found this, the Daily Yonder, which is kind of an interesting name. Right here, when the house bubble burst, rural prices kept steady. And it goes on to say one reason that rural prices haven't dropped as far as those in cities is that they didn't rise during the boom years. That makes sense, right? If you live out in the rural areas, for some of you, you know that as being out in the country folks, you know, the bunkins, the farmers, out there, prices don't appreciate as much as they do in the city. And because prices don't appreciate as much, prices don't come down as much. So he is looking at moving out to the rural area. So for him, the math behind this probably makes sense because he's got a highly appreciated house in a city that he's now going to sell and capitalize on that higher price to then move into the rural area and become a country bumpkin. And then he's going to be able to buy a house that did not appreciate as much. So he's buying it at a fair price. I didn't say low, but I said fair. And as long as he plans on staying there anywhere between 5 and 10 years, it would be a good move. It would be a good move. And for any of you looking to buy your dream house, listen, it's your primary house. Who cares if you overpay for it a little bit? Who cares if you got a little bit higher interest rate? It's where you and your family are gonna live, and as long as you're not going house poor and you don't stretch yourself, game on. But for the rest of you real estate investors looking for the opportunity, that's what I'm trying to explain. You gotta be patient. You gotta wait a little bit. We're not there yet. Everybody's just in such a big rush to get rich. Well, I'm not trying to get rich. I'm trying to stay wealthy, and you all should try to stay wealthy as well. And wealth comes in many shapes and sizes, but folks, if you're trying to get rich and you're in a rush to do it, you're gonna be the next poor person because you're gonna ride the cycles like everybody else. But if you're trying to be wealthy, and the only difference between rich and wealthy is the wealthy have figured out how not to give the money back. In other words, they sold high and they sit on the sidelines during economic slowdowns or when they think the markets are a bit wonky like they are right now. And they wait. Patience, is a virtue. And I think all of you have to realize that you got to be patient right now. So with that being said, all I'm going to tell you is the opportunity's coming. But I'm going to tell you one other thing, just like I said it earlier. The ultimate in real estate is being the bank. And I've created that community. Now let me explain this. When everything starts to soften, banks are going to stop lending. Oh, I'm sorry, I already did a video showing you that they are slowing down on the lending. They don't want to lend, they don't have as much money to lend, and it's not conducive for them to be aggressive with lending. So therefore, getting money for mostly investment properties is getting harder. Banks are closing slower. They're not closing at all. They're coming up with reasons not to do your deal instead of reasons to do your deal. Therefore, even when the opportunity comes and you can buy lower, you might have a hard time getting financing for that property. Well, at least that was then. Because now you've got privatemoneyclub.com. It's a community of people with money and people that need money. And who are the people with money? You and me, the lenders, the private lenders, not the institutions, the folks that have the self-directed IRAs, the cash value and the whole life policies, all the money sitting on the sidelines that used to be invested, but they were smart and sold high. Yes, they're there and they want their money to move and work for them. So they want to lend in first lien or second lien position or whatever position. And then there's you. You're trying to seize the opportunity. You're trying to buy real estate, so you need money. The banks have shunned you. The institutional lenders have shunned you. Where are you going to go? privatemoneyclub.com. And you are going to post your deal on there in the forum, in the deals page, and you're going to go in and you're going to meet the lenders. It's one community where people with money meet people that need money, and they come together just like a dating site does for men and women coming together to date. So folks, I hope you enjoy what I've said today. I hope you see the opportunity is not far away, but it's still far enough away where you got to be patient, which means in the patience is time to plan and get a plan in place for what the future holds for you. With that being said, thanks for joining me for another What Now? What's next for opportunity? Hey, if you like this video, check this one out. We call this our 90-minute video, and if you're interested in setting up your own private banking system, the infinite banking concepts, this video is mandatory. So check it out. It will change your financial future. With that, see you next time.